Welcome to Design with Impact, the podcast for interior designers who want to create beautiful, healthy spaces with intention and purpose. I'm Alex, interior designer, mom, entrepreneur, and educator, and I am truly passionate about sustainability. After seeing the amount of waste our industry creates and learning how everyday materials can impact our health, I completely changed the way I approach design. And now I want to help more designers do the same. Each week, through solo episodes and conversations with industry experts, we'll explore sustainable materials, healthier homes, and circular design, along with practical strategies to reduce waste, grow a sustainable business, and market your work with intention, so you can create real impact without sacrificing aesthetics or profitability. Because sustainability isn't optional, it's the future of design. Welcome to Design with Impact. I'm your host, Alex Shield, and today we're going to be speaking with Sandy Wong. She is the founder of the Healthy Home Summit and Rugs by Rue, where she bridges design, health, and sustainability. Her work focuses on helping people create homes that are not only beautiful, but supportive of long-term well-being. Through consumer education and expert-led programming, Sandy is shaping a new conversation around healthy, intentional living, one that empowers both homeowners and design professionals. Hi, Sandy. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Alex. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to start Rugs by Rue?
My background is completely unrelated to rugs. I actually come from an accounting background, but I did have an eye in aesthetics, so I appreciate anything that's interior design related, which is kind of what led me to selling area rugs. I started when I was pregnant with my second child, and I was literally looking for a healthier solution for my floors. Because with my first one, I didn't want to put down any plastic mats or foam mats on the floor for her when she was learning to crawl. And she was literally crawling on bare hardwood floors. And I was like, I don't want to make that mistake again. So when I was pregnant with my second one, I went down this rabbit hole of trying to find something that's healthy and washable and clean and natural. And it was so challenging. And I'm like, if I'm struggling with this, I'm sure other moms are struggling with this as well. And so that's kind of how I found the solution. I had to source it from Europe. And I was like, I want to bring this to Canada and then the USA. And that's kind of how Rugs by Rue started.
Okay, I love that. So you source healthy, sustainable rugs. You bring them
hmm
into Canada and the US for those of us who
hmm
cannot purchase directly from these suppliers because they don't sell directly to consumers.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, and
Yes.
you're also the founder of the Healthy Home Summit. So can you tell us a bit about this summit and why you started it?
Yeah, it's I started the Healthy Home Summit. Our first time doing the summit was a year ago. And as I was doing my rug business, I realized that there's a lot more layers to our homes. I mean, rugs is the biggest decor piece in a home, so I feel like it is important to be aware of what's the materials, what are there any sprays and chemicals on the rug that you're bringing into your home. But there's also other elements in your home, like your wall paints, your window treatment, your furniture, your kitchen, like everything in your kitchen and your bathroom. And so as I was learning about all these things, just for my personal reasons, because I have 3 kids, as I mentioned, and I realized, wow, there is a lot to learn here. And a lot of this information is quite overwhelming. I don't know what resources I can trust and which ones are greenwashing,
Mm.
what brands are actually real and which ones are just marketing. So I felt myself just digging through a lot of information and trying to get to like trustworthy sources. And so again, it's like if I'm struggling with this, I'm sure other moms are also struggling with this. So that's kind of what gave me the idea of doing the first summit. I was like, I'm just going to give this a try. Like I have some connections with some resources that I trust already. Like I'm just going to bring them in and let's start talking about these topics that is kind of difficult to navigate for some people, especially
Mm.
like for myself. I don't come from a chemistry background or a science background. And so a lot of these terminologies and chemical terms that I read in papers that I've been researching is hard to understand. And so really the intention was to serve myself because I'm curious and also to serve other people that I feel like could be in the same boat as me. And
Mm.
we did the first summit and it was amazing. Like we had zero marketing dollars towards it, and we had a lot of registrations. So I felt like, okay, this is something that I think people need more of. And so I just kept doing it. And that's kind of how Healthy Home Summit came about.
I love that. And so for those who are listening, this is a virtual online summit, and you always have these incredible speakers. I don't know where you find them all, but you have really good speakers, and they cover really everything about your home. From there's an interior design portion, there's a healthy building portion, there's mold, there's air quality, there's really it
hmm
covers everything. It's such a great summit. So
hmm
you're at this really interesting intersection of design, health, and consumer education. So what made you realize that this conversation was missing in the industry?
When I'm talking to clients that reach out to me for rug consultation and they're struggling between what to purchase, where to even start, not just from an aesthetics perspective, but also from a materials health perspective, because they could be like a young mom who has kids and they know they should be aware, but they don't know what to look for. So that's kind of where I realized that there's a lot of gaps missing. Like, I know people want to know, they care about, like, people who care about their health obviously care about what they're bringing into their home. But products that people bring into their home isn't a topic that a lot of people talk about.
Mm.
I mean, talking about organic food, what you eat and what you put on your body, like skincare, that's been doing really great, and I love
Mm.
it. Like, I love that people are more cautious now, in regards to food and skincare, and I feel like household products isn't quite there yet, and so that's kind of the gap that I've been trying to fill, and I feel like we are in the perfect spot because area rugs is a big decor piece in a home, and it can hugely impact your indoor air quality if you don't choose
Hmm.
the right one. And
Yeah.
so I feel like that's a really good starting point for a conversation for a lot of people. And it's fun. Like, it's a pretty piece. Like, it's like a decor piece, and I love talking about design. And so it's a fun piece to talk about and start the conversation around healthy
Hmm.
home for
For
people.
sure. So let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about materials then. So what should
Mhm.
designers be paying more attention to when it comes to sourcing healthy rugs?
Yeah, there's different elements that go into the design of a rug, obviously. So you could look at like the fibers, right? That's the biggest piece, right? What are the fibers made of? So we're talking about the materials. Is it synthetic or is it natural? When I first started my company, Rugs by Root, I was surprised to learn that like 80% of the rugs in the market are actually synthetic rugs.
Hmm. Wow.
I was really blown away by that statistic, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, can you imagine how many homes are filled with synthetic rugs?" So
Hmm.
the first thing is you wanna look for natural materials. The rugs that we sell in our store are wool, cotton, and jute. Those are the 3 materials that we sell. We don't sell
Okay.
anything synthetic, because synthetic fibers are also finished with a lot of chemicals
Mm.
because synthetic fibers isn't a natural material like wool. Wool, for example, it's naturally stain resistant, it's naturally water repellent, right? Along with a lot of other great qualities. So wool doesn't necessarily have to be treated with chemicals to make it stain resistant and make it water repellent, whereas synthetic fibers do. So if you get a rug that is made out of polypropylene or polyester, like 99% of the time it is sprayed with some kind of PFAS chemical to make it stain and water repellent. So that's kind of where the off-gassing comes from.
Mm.
The other finishes that you also want to pay attention to is like what are the dyes that are used for the coloring, right? Like a lot of rugs are made with azo dyes, and there are some that are carcinogenic, right? It's been proven. So those are the things that you want to look for. And also the final piece is when you flip the rug over, like what's on the back of the rug, like what's on the backing. Oftentimes it's usually a synthetic latex, which is also
Okay.
another suspected carcinogenic product. And so and also the glues, like how is the backing attached to the rug? That's also something to pay attention to. So there are many different elements of a rug if you look at the top and the back of it. So you do want to question every single component that goes into it.
I feel like that's a lot of things. That's a lot of things to look at and to
It does sound
ask
like quite
about
a lot
or
of things,
Mhm.
but if you really pull back and think about it, it's actually quite simple. Like if you're making a choice, always just choose the most natural
Mm,
ingredients that we know
okay.
about, right? What I talked about, wool, cotton, jute. There are rugs that have cotton backings. That's what we look at, right? And they're not glued on, they're stitched on. So if you just break it down to the most simple elements, like if you think back in the olden days, how would rugs have been made if there was not the invention of glue and all these big machinery? It would have been stitched on, and it probably would have had a cotton backing. So if you just think back in the olden days, how were rugs made, and think in the simplest format possible, that's pretty much what you want to look for in a rug.
Okay. I love that. So I was going to ask you this question. You sort of, I think, have answered it, but maybe there's something else
hmm
you want to add in there. But if somebody is just starting to learn about this, what are some of the red flags they should look for? So there's looking for, the looking at the backing, looking for natural materials. Is there anything else that we need to be looking out for?
Yeah. Unfortunately, with rugs, there is no requirement for the manufacturer to have like a content label. So you know how like on food packaging, you usually look at the ingredients and you have everything listed there. Unfortunately, with rugs, it's not that easy. Some will show it and some won't. But nevertheless, you do want to flip it over to see if there is a label and read what is it made of. If it's like a synthetic material like polyester, polypropylene, nylon, those are synthetic. And so that's the number one red flag. Other red flags that you want to look for is if there's marketing language on the rug that says, "Oh, this is this is stain resistant, or this is water repellent, or this is UV coated, like UV protected, or antimicrobacterial," right? Those are all terms that means that it's been treated with some kind of chemical
Mm,
to prevent it from staining or to make it last longer. And then the other thing that the best test that I do sometimes when I'm walking through a department store is I just smell it. Like you put your
mm,
nose to the rug and you
okay.
smell it. And for sure, if it is a synthetic rug, there's gonna be a smell, and it's quite off-putting. And you just have to imagine if you brought this home, this smell is gonna be in your home. Like, do you really want that smell in your home? Um, so
That's a
that's
good tip.
the smell test is the easiest, yeah.
That is a good
And then the
tip for
last
sure.
part is just to flip it over, right? Sometimes you can actually see the glue on the edges. You can
Mm,
tell how a backing is stuck on, if it is glued or if it's stitched. So just flip it over and see if it's glued or stitched.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you have very strict criteria for the rugs that you carry in your online shop. So what are the non-negotiables for you?
Yeah. The number one non-negotiable that we haven't quite talked about yet is the child labor piece. And that's
Mm,
kind of the piece that had me really focus on growing Rugs by Rue and creating awareness around this topic. When I first started Rugs by Rue, I was so naive. I had no idea that child labor was still an issue in the carpet and rug industry in India. And so when I went down that rabbit hole, I realized that there is certifications that you can look for. The one that we endorse is called Good Weave International. And what they do is they have boots on the ground. They're an organization based in India where they will actually go to factories and do surprise audits to make sure that there is no children working in those factories that are supplying those rugs and carpets. And so that is the non-negotiable piece that we look for when we are vetting our suppliers. They have to be either Good Weave certified, or they have to have their complete ownership of their own manufacturing process to make sure that there is no children employed in their factory. So that's number one. And then the number two criteria is, as I mentioned, the materials. We only work with natural materials, so it has to be either wool, cotton, or jute. Even if it's blended with a synthetic, we don't usually consider it because we want to avoid all things synthetic. And so the materials is important. And then the third piece is we do ask the manufacturer, has this been treated with flame retardants and sprays and chemicals, and what is the glue on, if you do use a glue, what is the glue that you use on the back? What is the backing made of? So we do ask all these questions of our suppliers, and we ask them to provide us with the certification and documentation to prove it.
Wow.
And then I would say the final test is like the kid test, which I do a lot at home, is because I have 3 kids, is like, does it actually stand up to the test of time? Like, is it actually durable? Because the last thing we want is for you to spend so much money and time on getting a rug and it ends up not lasting that long, and then you have to
Mhm.
and then it ends up in landfill in several years. So durability is extremely important for landfill purposes, as well as for the sake of our wallets, I feel. So
Yeah.
those are kind of some of the criteria that we look for.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that you have this strict criteria, and I feel like sustainability isn't easy, right? And it's not perfect, but I love that
Mm,
you have like these are our values, this is our criteria, and we're sticking to it. I
mhm,
also didn't know about until I don't know, the past couple of years, I guess, in my research, I didn't know that there was still child labor either. So
mm.
child labor, forced labor, but I'm glad that there are these organizations in place that are sort of looking out for that. Hey, my friends, if you want to stay in the loop on what's happening in the sustainable interior design industry, you need to get on our mailing list. Each month, we share industry updates, our favorite products and suppliers, and the resources and trainings we're genuinely excited about. You'll also get behind the scenes updates and be the first to hear what's happening inside the Design with Impact community. Our newsletter is curated specifically for designers who want to create healthy, more sustainable spaces. Join the list through the link in our show notes. While we're talking about, you mentioned durability and you mentioned price point. So
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of the time consumers' decisions come down to the price. So first I think is
Yes.
aesthetic and then it's price. And a healthy rug is often an investment. So can you tell me a little bit about the price difference between a healthy rug and a non-healthy rug? And I'd love to know how durability factors into that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Price point is a big consideration even for the customers that come to our store. So you're 100% accurate on that. The way we see it, and personally as a mom, the way I see it is it is an investment piece. So typically, if you go pick up a synthetic rug from a department store, it could be anywhere between $200 to $400, depending on the price point. But for a typical living room rug, it's $200 to $400. For a rug that is made out of 100% wool with natural dyes, it could be in the price range of 800 all the way up to $2,000, depending on the thickness and the quality. And so it is quite a price jump for a lot of people if you just strictly look at the price tag. But the way I explain it to our clients is that you're looking for longevity here. A synthetic rug on the best, most generous occasions lasts up to 5 years. Most would last about 3 years, I would say. Whereas a wool rug, like you've heard stories of people passing wool rugs down from generation to generation, right? Like
Vintage.
it lasts pretty much forever unless you get tired of the look and feel and you just decide to get rid of it, right? It can last. Like you vacuum it, you can clean it, and it will look brand new again. And so if you compare the math, and we have done that before, like say if you're picking up a $2,500 rug, and we're going to say, okay, let's say it lasts 30 years for a wool rug. So that's about what, $83 a year, right? Versus a synthetic rug that you pick up for $400 per se, and it lasts like 5 years. That also costs you $80 a year. So it's actually quite comparable when you
Mm,
compare the price tag on a per year basis. And
that's
you're
good.
also, if you're investing in this wool rug, you're also not having to change it up as more often. Because who wants to change up a massive living room rug? And like every time you change up the rug, you have to remove all the furniture, roll up the rug, think of where to dispose it. It's quite an effort. And so not only are you saving time and energy, but also I mean, you can't really put a price tag on your family's health. And so these are kind of the things that I lay out for people when price point is an issue. It's like, if you actually do the math, first of all, when you break it down by year, this wool rug is quite a good investment. It's very comparable to a synthetic rug. That's number
Mm-hmm.
one. And also number two is, as I said, you can't put a price tag on health. And also you cannot put a price tag on our planet. So if you think about these three things, it really does become a no-brainer for a lot of people at the end of that conversation.
So that's a really great idea, looking at the price point, how much you're spending per year to
hmm
show them that it's really it's going to
And I feel
last
like
you. So,
that same math you can apply to not just rugs, but
yeah,
anything that you purchase in your home,
for sure.
right? Like a furniture piece, a
Yeah.
couch that's good quality, a dining table that's hardwood versus MDF, right? Like you can kind of apply the same formula for a lot of other things in your home.
Yeah, for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've talked about materials, we've talked about toxic chemicals, social aspect, durability, price point. Do you think that consumers are becoming more aware of some of these issues?
Some of these issues in the home, yes. I feel
Okay.
like consumers are starting to become more aware of like mattresses has been a big topic
Mm.
in the last
Mm-hmm.
5 years, right? That's kind of come to the surface. And you can see a lot more healthy, natural mattress brands surfacing, which is great. Um, and I think furniture is being talked about as well, like hardwood furniture, less MDF. In terms of area rugs, I don't think it's being talked about yet. It hasn't hit that point where people are starting to think about. It's kind of like it's the last item that people think about on their list. Um, because they kind of categorize it as, oh, it's a decor element. It's a good to have. It's a bonus, but it's not a necessity. So to answer your question, I feel like for rugs specifically, it's not there yet. I think consumers are still at the earlier stages of kind of tackling the objects that they feel they will come in contact with the most often.
Mm.
Um, in my opinion, area rug is a piece that is super important because especially if you have kids, like your kids are actually probably spending a lot of time rolling around on that rug that's in their nursery or in the playroom or in the living room. But we don't make that connection. The mattress is the more obvious connection because you're sleeping on it and their skin is touching it. But you don't often think about, okay, when they're not sleeping, where are they spending most of their time? It's actually on the floor.
It
And
is
so
on the
that's
floor.
kind of what I talk about a lot, just to create that connection for people is aside from the bed, your child is probably spending the second most amount of time on the rug or that play mat or that
Mm-hmm.
foam mat that you have in the living room. So that's kind of what I preach a lot of times, hoping that people will catch on to this more and more and more because it's not just a decor piece. It is
Mm-hmm.
a huge part of your family. Um, and it's one of the biggest decor pieces in your home if you really do look at it from a decor perspective.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I think for me, so the story of my
hmm
business started when I
Yeah.
was designing my son's nursery, and I was looking for healthy, sustainable everything essentially for his room.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I found you guys. I think that's when I found Rugs by Rue. I did order a couple of rugs from you at the time, but it was very overwhelming to try and find these products. And when I found your website, I was like, oh, I could just buy anything on here and it's fine. It's fine because I read through, your about section and what you do and your criteria for choosing rugs. And I was like, okay, I feel safe here. And those rugs, are lasting. They're great quality. So, but
Mm.
that was a big one for me. It's my kids are going to be crawling around on the floor. So,
That's so great to hear.
yeah,
That is the intention, right? Like as a
yeah,
mother, you should be spending your time with your kids, with your family. And I don't want moms to have to focus on researching, okay, let's see here. What is this material that starts
that's
with the
too much.
P? And
Yeah,
like it's a lot it's a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
It's so great. I'm so glad you found us.
But it's funny too because you and I had a chat. It was a while back now, and we were I was I don't remember if it was an Instagram live or something we did, but I
Uh-huh.
said, like I said something along the lines of like, okay, so tell us about your business and what do you do? And you said, well, I'm in education. And it was so funny because I'm like, but you sell rugs. But it's true because I do interior design, but I do sustainable design and you do healthy rugs. And that's, we need to educate because people aren't aware. People aren't talking about healthy rugs, like you said. I think people are coming around a little bit more and talking about indoor air quality,
Mm,
but not necessarily realizing the impact of, our furniture, our rugs, our paint, all of the materials in our home.
yeah.
Um, so you've built this platform around educating consumers through this Healthy Home Summit.
Mhm.
Um, do you have any tips on how we can confidently communicate the importance of non-toxic rugs to our clients?
Mm. I think clients want to be educated. They just don't know what they don't know.
Mm,
So if you are an interior designer and you're working with a client, it's all about just sharing what you know with them, especially if they have young kids or pets or if they have family members that have a chemical sensitivity. This is particularly important. They might be missing something. And if you just share what you're learning through listening to your podcast or listening to our summit, if you just share this information with them, um, oftentimes I feel like they would gravitate towards it. They are open and they are willing. They just don't know what they don't know. That's number one. And then I think the second element is it starts with you as a designer, right? Like if you are designing strictly with aesthetics first and not considering the materials or how it's made, where it's made, what's in it, then your client is obviously gonna you're kind of like creating the space for that as well in your client. Whereas if you do approach it from, okay, aesthetics and materials and where it's made and how it's made are all the factors that are important in your design concept and you communicate that with them, then they will naturally accept it and gravitate towards
mm,
that and might actually appreciate it because you're covering all perspectives. You're covering all aspects of it, not just from an aesthetics perspective, but also with their well-being in mind and also their investment value in mind. So
mhm,
I feel like the conversation has to start from the bigger picture is like, what are you committed to? Are you committed to just the aesthetics or are you committed to their well-being and their investment value as well?
mm.
Um,
I love that.
and yeah, I mean, there are a lot of options out there now that are both beautiful and sustainable and healthy. And I feel like generally people have a misconception that, oh, for it to be healthy, it has to be minimal, it has to be clean, it has to be white, it has to be this and that. But I mean, natural materials are the coziest, are often the gives you the best energy and the best vibe if you think about it. If you
Mm,
walk into a room filled with natural materials, it just gives you that natural vibe and that natural energy that everyone can feel. And so I think I'm not trying to tell interior designers how to design, but coming from that aspect and building that into your design concept would be, I think it would be super helpful. And
mhm.
it will transfer to the clients when they see it.
And I think too, for me, it's about just making it a non-negotiable. And, I've had people refer
Mhm.
to me
I
who
love that about
say,
you.
people will say like, okay, yeah, I need this, but it doesn't have to be sustainable. And I'm sitting there going, yes, it does, because I can't unknow what I know. But you just make it the standard. And I mean, if you're hiring an interior designer, you're looking for aesthetics, yes, but you're also looking for quality and durability and all of those great
Mhm.
things. So a
Mhm.
healthy, natural fiber rug is going to meet that criteria over polyester any day. So,
Yeah, like, wouldn't it be great if the homeowner was, like, 20 years later is sitting in the living room and appreciating how beautiful their living room is and how beautiful
still.
that rug is, and they're gonna remember it was this designer.
Mm,
It was this designer that not only considered the aesthetics, but considered that I would still be in this home for this many years, and it's
mhm,
still here looking brand new, and looking amazing. Like, I think designer is the most important element of creating a space, and if it's designed well with all the elements intentionally, you will get praised for it and you will be remembered for it.
No, for sure.
Hmm.
So, where do you see the future of interior design going when it comes to health, materials, and intentional living?
I think it's heading in the right direction. I think it's heading towards wellness, healthy materials. I think, I mean, California state has been the best at implementing like these restrictions around PFAS chemical usage, right? Which is great. It's done really, really well for the carpet and rug industry. And I think other states are going to start adopting some of these restrictions and regulations as well, across the board. Because I think we're realizing more and more that we don't need these chemicals. We really don't need these fibers. We don't need these chemicals. There are much simpler materials and simpler ways of making products. And so I think we are heading in the right direction. I think the conversations are also heading in the right direction. So as a community, if we demand it more and more, like when I say community, interior designers, the leaders of the industry, right? Interior designers, real estate agents, right? Consumers, people like myself who are have the purchasing power, for us to start talking about this more and more and demanding it more and more, I think manufacturers will be forced to head in that direction as well. So
Hmm.
I feel very optimistic. I feel that's kind of why I wanted to build out the Healthy Home Summit. It's not just a summit, it's actually a platform. It's a resource hub for people to come back to ongoingly for suggestions on, okay, what brands should I look to? What experts should I reach out to hire or to have a consultation with? We want all this to be accessible to people because the more knowledge you have, I feel like people are not stupid. Like I feel like if people are have the knowledge, they will make the smarter choices. They just don't know what they don't know. So if we
Yeah.
can present them with the right information, they're going to make the smarter choices.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with
Yeah.
the asking for what we want and asking your suppliers. Does it contain PFAS chemicals? Does it contain phthalates? Does it contain flame retardants? You're
Hmm.
right in that the more that we ask, the more they're going to see the need for that
Hmm.
change,
Hmm.
and potentially change their product. So that would be awesome. So
Yes.
thank you, Sandy, for joining us. Before we go, you have a special offer for our listeners.
Yes. I am actually offering a free workshop to talk exactly about this topic, healthy rugs. So I know, as we mentioned, that there could be a lot of elements that go into choosing a rug, not just from an aesthetics perspective, but also from a materials and finishing and dyes perspective. And so I've decided to create a free workshop specifically geared towards interior designers. It's happening on June 12th. And it's for 1 hour. You could pop in. It's going to be recorded. If you can't join us live, that's not a problem. But I would love for people to join us live so they could ask questions as well if they want. Yeah, it's designed for interior designers to help them if they want to make a pivot to designing with health and sustainability as being at the forefront of their design practice. Then this would be the workshop for them, just to learn more about healthy rugs and how to choose them for their clients.
That's so good. I love that.
Hmm.
And then everybody can just bring their questions and have direct
Hmm.
access to Sandy. So that's awesome. So I will post that in the show notes below. I will also be posting it on Instagram, so that you guys can register. That's awesome. So if anybody wants to connect with you, where can they find you?
Rugs by Rue. So you can always email me, reach me directly at sandy@rugsbyrue.com. Um, or join our next summit, which I host, and you'll see me there as well. Or you could also find me through Alex.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love for you to follow the podcast, share this episode with another designer so we can make an even bigger impact, and leave a review so more designers can find this podcast and we can continue to grow this community. Also, I challenge you to take one sustainable practice from this episode and incorporate it in your business or your next project. And I want to know what it is. Send me a DM over on Instagram at designwithimpact_. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for being here.